prices are often a reflection of knowledge and information. Prices reflect, the relative supply and demand, what have you. When it comes to Apple shares, for instance, people tend to have an understanding of why things might be fluctuating. But when it comes to crypto, it's almost like an unseen territory. How does one make sense of knowledge and information in this space?
I would agree with you in part there, but probably have a slightly different take on true fair information. So in a perfectly operating market with perfect information sharing, then yes, price correlates directly to information. But that's not how it actually works in the public market now. And I'm sure that Tim Cook probably has some more information, and he obviously can't trade publicly, but one level removed, two layers removed. Yeah. And let's say Elon Musk, tweeted that out and price dropped drastically. Does it reflect information or the foundation of a company? So even in the public context, publicly traded companies, there's imperfect information. Sure. In crypto, of course, it's even more opaque. But because of that, we're seeing securities law coming to apply. And I have no doubt that in the future, there will be more information disclosure requirements. Yeah. And in the future, I would think that a project founder wouldn't be so easily selling the tokens that he owns in advance of a major development at a company, because that may very well violate certain framework of securities law.
Sure. So fundamentally, you're saying there is not a difference in terms of how the market is playing out and how information is being shared or not shared, but fundamentally the market exists and works in a certain way. There's nothing unique about crypto and versus a traditional investment in terms of knowledge and information.
Yes, though obviously most crypto networks, codes are open source, right? So people can look into it much more, but it's also unprecedented in the sense of the level of mass participation in very early stage companies. So right now, for sure, that you see something that didn't come before. Yeah. In the old days, a company got a file for IPO and disclose information. Now they do a form of minor IPO called ICO with very limited information, but I think over time there will be more requirements for disclosure.
Got it. What advantage is it to invest in crypto versus in traditional markets?
Well, why don't we touch on the underlying technology first? And I'll give a very concrete example. My family immigrated here from Vietnam. I remember as a kid when my mom sent $100 back to her relatives in a small town in Vietnam. Just the transaction fee alone could be $13, $14 for every $100 sent. Right now, Vietnam is a very active community when it comes to crypto participation. By transferring the equivalent, but in either Bitcoin or Ethereum, would cut that cost down to below $1 per $100. So just that alone, and you can imagine different developing countries and how many more people participating. That's just one example to see how you can cut out the middleman and extract as much value to the trading parties as possible.
Yeah, got it. So it's like a reduction in the transactions costs, and it helps alleviate some of the costs that were associated before.
Exactly. Blockchain technology brings forth two main things, many other things, but the two things in my opinion. One is automation, and the other one is fractionalization. So you can transfer automatically without an intermediary, and you can do it at such a small amount. The two combined means just much more engagement that people, even a stay-at-home mom in Argentina or China or Vietnam, can all of a sudden invest $30 or $30 worth in crypto asset probably into a startup or a restaurant in the US. And if you can imagine, if that proliferates globally, how much that would change our society globally as well.
Crypto tokens are not meant to be currencies. They're meant to do a lot of other things. Two broad categories: security tokens and utility tokens. A security token is an investment tool. If the price is speculative and it goes up and down, it's a security token. A utility token is meant to be used, like arcade tokens, voting rights at an organization, or redeemable tickets. These categories are pretty broad. A security token can become a utility token over time, or vice versa. But what's most important is that crypto tokens can be applied to almost anything. So here's where it gets interesting. What if you can tokenize yourself?
Are there ways that you can talk to the separation between what a security or utility token is? Or are they one and the same thing? Do things kind of,
And allow me to clarify a little bit on the definition of utility, or why there's a distinction between utility and security.
Please.
And the main distinction is that if anything that's deemed to be a security, you have to comply with US securities laws. And that comes with a lot of hurdle in sales and distribution. If something is just like a coffee cup, a product, or straight up utility, then you don't have to do that, and so it's easier. So in your case, that's an example. Let's say anyone who goes and sees you perform will earn a couple digital tokens that shows up on their phone, just for fun, just as a thank you note. And if you amass 100 of those, then they may be able to go and have lunch with you. That's a straight up utility token. Things that people use for no actual economic purpose. The moment that you have anything that involves getting money back, getting cash distribution, or that people are acquiring these tokens thinking that there's a price appreciation in the near term so that they can cash out, that pretty much, with rare exceptions, lands squarely in the realm of securities law. Since the Great Depression, or as a result of the Great Depression, Congress and the US government basically put in their framework to protect investors. One of the key framework is that unless you're a millionaire and can afford the risk of loss, you cannot invest in private securities. So the outcome of that is that 99.9% of the American public, they may own public stock, but they don't actually invest in a private company, right? The law changed in 2016. And that's just an evolution of reality, and that people should be able to invest small amount. And the law now enable people to do that. Anyone, even students, can invest $20, $50 in early stage companies, including crypto projects and security tokens.
That's amazing. That's awesome. It seems like there's so much a larger purpose behind what you're actually offering. It's not just allowing people to invest in through crypto, but it's opening up access for people who aren't millionaires to be able to get involved, to be able to support projects that they want to, and just participate, really. I'm an artist, I'm a dancer. How would a utility token function in terms of possibly supporting like my projects or my shows or something that I'm working on?
Why don't I just draw out a few things on a piece of paper and maybe highlight how a utility token framework would work compared to a security token framework. Absolutely. So let's say now there's just you as the dancer, right? And then you're gonna be performing. So you form, let's say, a corporation. We're gonna call it ABC Corp. Pretty much all tickets to the performance will be sold through ABC, and all proceeds back into APC. So let's say you issue a performance, a bunch of tickets, and T stand for tickets. You want to encourage social media awareness, brand promotion. So you decide that any person who purchased a single ticket will also get a token that issued by you. And that token then would show up on the phone as, an image of you dancing or something like that they can repost on social media, and if they want, they can gift it to another friend. So there isn't truly a monetary value to this. And if they want, they can accumulate, to go to 3 concerts, accumulate 3 tokens, and then trade in those tokens on an app. And when you have 3 tokens, you can claim a lunch with you. So the piece of getting a digital representation of a almost like a validation signal, or just it doesn't come with an economic right. That's basically a utility token that does enable you to activate your community, your supporters, your fan a little bit more. Now, if you turn this one more level and make it much more engaging monetary-wise, it will become a security token. I'll give you an example. Instead of selling tickets, you're gonna say that, hey everyone, I'm gonna do a performance series. I'm gonna fundraise $1 million to put up the show. And whatever profit that comes back in will go back to the investors. So you divide ABC company, let's say, into 4,000 pieces, commonly known as 4,000 shares. If you don't deal with tokenization at all, you can go out there and I can buy 500 shares, Calvin can buy 1,000 shares, and you keep 500 shares. And that's how it works in the traditional world. Once you tokenize it, meaning you attach one share to a digital token, typically on say an ERC20. Each of these tokens now can be transferred back and forth, but let's say the moment that you sell these tokens to investors anywhere, they can buy it with $20, $50. They will help evangelize for the performance for the show because they will have some bit of interest back, so you're gonna sell that many more tickets because now they have like skin in the game. But more importantly, because your show, the first show was sold out. And then people were like, wow, you know what, this is gonna be a real money maker. And I happen to say that, I think that I'm gonna be able to sell my tokens for a profit. I may turn out and ask Calvin, hey, do you wanna buy what I purchased for $1 a share now for $2? And if he decides that, yes, I wanna do it, literally in an instant, I can transfer my shares, my tokens to him. In the old days, you have to go through complex process of transfer agents and record keeping. That's what I meant by the power of automation. And by automating so much of it, you can break not a company down to not just 4,000 shares, it can be 4 billion shares, and someone can invest 50 cents, and it still makes it worthwhile. Real estate is a good example. You really cannot today invest in real estate with less than $20,000 in a fund. But by tokenizing it, you can invest in real estate as little as $200. So the two combined hopefully will give you a lot more engagement for the community that you're hoping to reach, either by giving them just validation and soft recognition, or you can ally interest, economic rights, and skin in the game. If you do that, if you ally economic rights and skin in the game, then it becomes a security token.
Yeah. Wow, that's great. And it's just what's so cool about that is the soft stuff that you did mention. Aside from just giving them the investment of money or currency, you're also validating them. You're kind of co-signing on their venture and their journey, and it's so communal. I love that. It seems as if it's like a very resilient way to support somebody.
And I think that's how from artists and performance artists, music, musicians, all the ways to book production and financing a major movie. What better way to promote a movie overseas when you allow Chinese and Koreans and Vietnamese and French to buy small pieces in an upcoming movie, and they will get all of their friends to go see it.
Oh, that's so cool, man. So I feel like this definitely revolutionizes the way people can support an artist or an entrepreneur or what have you. But it also can reshape certain industries. For instance, directly applied to my dance. You have dancers who strive to get into the industry, quote unquote, the industry, which is entertainment. And that's usually the path to like monetization is getting yourself involved in some type of agency, and they'll find auditions for you and what have you. But with this kind of platform, with kind of technology, I feel like people can really encourage a new breed of artist, one that's not just focused on entertainment, but community engagement, cultural diplomacy, just things that you might not necessarily, think of when you think about a dancer or a musician, because the power of art in general, as it can transcend just a normal entertainment value, but it can connect communities. You're exchanging in some ways cultural capital. I'm sharing my dance moves with you. You're going to show me your dance moves, and we're exchanging, and that's a very important part of culture to me. So it really, to me, it helps me envision a pathway that opens up artists and entrepreneurs to see outside of the traditional way of approaching that industry. So it's really cool.
And I think there's a direct parallel to what you described in the music and the performance art industry compared to venture capital, which is if you rely on professional investor or professional managers, then all that they aim for is return on capital. And they ignore all of the other elements that would incentivize an everyday person, a true fan, a true supporter to invest and support. So, you know, a venture capitalist is not going to invest in a business that creates 2,000 jobs in Harlem unless the business has a 100x potential, and that's not what makes the world go round. I think do good and do well in varying forms, and I think the true potential of crowdfunding and crypto will get us there.
That's awesome. So when are we going to tokenize my dance company?
Oh, tomorrow.
Okay.
I have an agreement right here for you to sign.
Awesome. But will we battle first? Are you going to show me some of your dance moves? Or we
The best I can
battle
do
for
is,
sure.
you know, we can battle through arm wrestling and see who wins.
Great. Yeah, I think you could definitely have a one-up on me. Well, it's a pleasure, Ken.
Such a
Thank you so
pleasure.
much for taking the time to talk to us.
Thank you for having me.
The ethos of blockchain is about democratizing and decentralizing everything. It's about time that change comes to our political system. Till next time.